2022 US Virtual Forum for SPDK. I'm Nate Marshak, and I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what we're going to cover over the next couple of days. Okay, so first thing we want to touch on is what's new, maybe a bit about what to expect, and then we'll dive into the agenda and get started. You'll get to hear from Jim and him provide the State of the Union. So some of the stuff you're going to hear a little bit about today are things like the Infrastructure Programmer Development Kit. So I think at a high level, what you're thinking about here is it's really an open source control plane. It's really focused on helping companies simplify adoption of infrastructure programming units, simplifying portability, and simplifying management. You'll also hear a bit about XNVMe. I think you'll hear more about this tomorrow, actually, but I think Jim will touch on it a little bit. But really, this is about leveraging new kernel block interfaces for user space. You'll also hear a little bit here about the distributed asynchronous object store, DAOS. It's really oriented at high performance computing for storage in that arena. DAOS has used SPDK for some time, but now SPDK is using DAOS. Hopefully that isn't too confusing. I know it twisted me a bit, but should be fun. And then, of course, right, we'll hit through quite a number of things on SPDK, right? We'll talk about performance, efficiency updates. Of course, there's lots of features. You'll hear about CSOL and other various things. It's kind of why we're here. So for today, the key things here that we're going to touch on, again, touched on State of the Union from Jim. You'll hear Mateusz come in and talk about the Cloud Storage Acceleration Layer, CSOL. He'll really kind of delve into various aspects there. I think you'll find this very interesting. We'll also follow that up with some time spent on SPDK and how it's used in infrastructure programming units. And we'll follow that up with more about how SPDK and IPUs are playing together. After we take a break, you'll hear from Ben Walker. He's going to walk you through where we're at with respect to TCP networking. And I think this will be a fun topic. So what you'll see after that is a couple of folks from Nutanix are going to come in and talk about VFIO user. And this is really an interesting area where there's been quite a bit going on over the last, year or so. So I'm excited for that talk. And lastly, you're going to hear John come in and talk about where we're at with respect to performance and some accelerators like the data streaming accelerator that's available on our most recent platform from Intel. But there's some interesting things there in the context of NVMe and TCP. Tomorrow, we'll walk through, as I mentioned earlier, XNVMe and IOU ring. We'll touch on that. Both Simon from Samsung and Jim will come in and give you some updates in that arena. Some interesting stuff going on there. Paul's going to come in and give you a bit of a deeper dive on the accelerator framework for things like DSA and other various offerings from companies using SPDK. The Excel framework, you'll kind of get more of an in-depth view of how that works with NVIDIA. Alexi's going to come in. He's one of our core maintainers, and he'll give you some good insight there. And then you'll also have a talk from Mike and Shuhei from NVIDIA they'll come in and they'll talk about NVMe multipathing and external snapshots. And I think you'll find some good information, and it's always fun to kind of learn what other companies are doing in this arena. And then after a break, you'll come in and listen to Carol talk about performance with SPDK, performance.spdk.io, our various performance reports that get published every quarter. It's always kind of good to kind of see how the sausage is made, and I think Carol's going to shed some light on that. And then lastly, Jim will come in and talk about SPDK tracing, and really delve deep about how you can actually trace when you're attempting to get performance data out of a system. How can you do tracing and not impact the performance data that you're gathering? So I think that's going to be pretty cool. So, sit back, listen to what we've got to offer. Be sure to interact, ask questions. Most of these sessions, you're going to have time to ask questions, and let's have fun.